Okay,
Excellent.
then I will start the show here in five, four, three, two, one. Good evening and welcome to the TalkWrite show and Happy New Year. We usually have the show on the first Tuesday or sometimes the first Monday of every month, and here it is Wednesday, and it's January 1st. The reason for that is we have a very special guest tonight. Damon Courtney with BookFunnel is with us, and we're going to talk about direct sales and some marketing ideas and how things looked last year compared to the years prior and the outlook for the future. Nick, why don't you take over and tell us a little bit about Damon?
All righty. So Damon's been on with us before, and he's one of my favorite guests because we could basically let him take over the show. And part of that's because of all the different hats he wears. Damon Courtney basically created BookFunnel. As the creator, the founder, the head code writer, lead engineer. And I will leave it to him to explain that there have been some recent changes where he gets to do more of what he wants to do. But BookFunnel is just one of the best companies that is out there for people in self-publishing. I would even argue probably some people who are published with publishers would want to use it. Where you can just get your book out to people in any number of ways. You can sell it, you can have advanced reader copies sent out to people, you can have audiobooks. It's just fantastic. But Damon, let me jump right in. You used to be kind of CEO and Lord of all you survey, but you like doing certain things more, and I guess you've gotten big enough that you were able to make some changes.
Yeah, in the last year. So I am still the CEO, and I still go to the conferences and do most of the talks, and we do things like this because I like doing that. But also, I, I am sure that every author listening has that list of things that they love to do. Hopefully, chief among them being writing your books. And then there's the things that they don't like doing. You don't like running Facebook ads. You don't like writing blurb copy, whatever it is. And BookFunnel just passed our. Let's see, we opened our doors in October of 2015. So we just passed 9 years in business. And for the last eight or so, my wife Julie and I did everything at the top, right? We have plenty of employees that do all of that keep the company running, and they're the rock stars. But we were still the ones that were doing a lot of things that, yeah, we didn't like. So in the last year, we've hired a new director of operations. His name is Richard, and he has taken over so much of the company, which allows me to spend more of my time working on the code, working on the engineering stuff, which is actually the part that I like, right? It's the part that I built BookFunnel, in my little shed, just me writing all the code, and that's the part that I like. That's the solving the problems that I like solving. And then the rest of the stuff, like worrying about who's going to send the taxes to Serbia, that I don't want to do that, right? I really don't. And honestly, nobody does, right? And so letting somebody else take over, and we were talking a little bit before the show, and I see this a lot in some authors that, you sort of reach that level where you can afford to maybe hire out a few of these tasks and some of these smaller tasks, especially. And, at some point, you probably should at some point take especially the things that you hate and say, I really don't like doing this part. Let someone else do that part because it allows you to do the one thing that no one else can do, especially in the author business. No one can write your books but you. So you're going to put your name on that book cover. It's your book. And so the other parts, the little parts about who's going to pay this taxes, who's going to do that, who's going to file this paperwork with the copyright office, find somebody else to do those little things. And that has been the biggest change both for Julie and I in the last year is bringing on a director who has taken on doing all of that stuff, which does allow me to do the part that I like the most, which is building cool tools for author.
Now, has your new director of operations jumped into his job and said, okay, you know what? I think we should add this functionality, so go forth and code it.
Well, everybody does that. And I will say we get like I get way more of that from our author support admins than we do from the director. So because they're in the queue every day. So every single one of our author support team and most of the entire company are self-published authors, right? They're actively out there self-publishing. And so you can't help it, right? If you were a self-published author and you worked at BookFunnel, you can't help but go, what would be really cool is if BookFunnel did this. And it's very self-serving because that's the thing that you need. But what's great about that is that that does allow us to see what the industry needs, not just from what our authors are emailing us about. I've always said that we build what our authors need. So, we'll get requests all the time for things that it's very unlikely that we're going to build because somebody says, "Hey, what would be great is a book funnel integrated with this thing that no one's ever heard of, and I'd literally never heard the name of the company until you sent me this email." And then we'll get things like, "Hey, it would be great if book funnel integrated with Flowdesk," and we get hundreds of those requests. And so we can look at that and go, "Oh, this is something we really need to build. We really should have an integration with this company or with this service over here." And we take all of those emails in. So a lot of those emails, they do come. We have a weekly team meeting every week, and most of the suggestions about where we should go on our roadmap are coming from authors that are emailing us, so I will say, if you have an idea or you have a thing, email us. That's the only way that we're ever going to know that that's out there. And then our own authors, the ones that are out there, they run our promos. They're in our promos. They're out there publishing their books. They're out there building their mailing lists. They're doing everything that the authors that sign up for BookFunnel are doing. And so you can't help but come up with ideas and go, "Oh, it'd be really cool if we could do something like this." Then we take those things, and then I go off and the engineers go off and build it because that's what we try to do. We always try to stay, it's the Gretzky quote about skating where the puck is going to be. We try to look at trends in the industry and what authors are out there doing. And especially if we see an author doing something really cool, but in sort of some roundabout way. They're like, "Oh, well, I'm doing this really cool thing and I do it with this and I blah, 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 blah." And then 6 steps later, and we go, "Okay, that's a really cool thing, but we could reduce that to 1 step if you just had the right software to do it." Right? I love solving problems with software. It's why I love being a developer because I can sit down and, like an author, I can just put my hands on the keyboard and start building something. I don't need anyone's permission. I don't need anyone to tell me how to do it. I just sit down and start doing it.
Well, let me ask, this might be something you already do, but I don't know about. But uh, do you have, what I like about BookFunnel is I can do many, many, many things through one company rather than doing this with this and this with this and this with this. Uh, do you sell or do you integrate with any of the print on demand companies for swag? Is that something you would be able to do?
We don't. So BookFunnel doesn't actually do any of the selling. So we integrate with the services that do selling. So like, how you would do that would generally be you would set up a WooCommerce store on your website, or you would set up a Shopify store. What's great is that all of these services that are out there, they all already have those integrations. So if you go and set up a Shopify store, for example, you can integrate with BookFunnel. You can integrate with Lulu or Book Vault for print on demand. You can integrate with Printful or Printify for coffee mugs and tote bags and everything else. So you have the store and you've set everything up. What's really cool is that let's say you make a sale, right? And in that sale, somebody has bought 2 tote bags, a coffee mug, a hardcover, and 3 audiobooks. That same transaction goes to all of us, right? It goes to you, let's say you've integrated Lulu for your print. So that goes to Lulu. And then it also goes to Printful, who's doing your coffee mugs and tote bags, and it comes to BookFunnel. BookFunnel just goes, "Coffee mug, that's not us. Tote bag, that's not us. Hardback, that's not. Here's 3 audiobooks. That's us." And we take over and we deliver that thing. So that one transaction fires off to all 3 companies. And like magic, Lulu's going to print the book and going to drop it in the mail. It's going to have your label on it and do all the thing. Printful's going to print the mug and the 2 tote bags, and they're going to put it in a box and ship it. And it's all going to show up to the customer like magic, like nothing happened. And the audiobooks are going to show up instantly in their book funnel library because we're digital. So we get to do everything digitally. And I will say that's like a wonderful place to be because if you're doing anything physical, right? There's no telling. We printed off 100 coffee mugs and 5 of them didn't print correctly, or the glaze didn't set, or whatever it is, right? We don't have those kinds of problems. The same ebook goes to 5 different people. It's the same ebook 5 times. It's just duplicated, bits across the internet. So, but I love that. I love that all of these companies are out there and they've all now built these integrations with these very popular sales platforms so that everybody can do the part that they do best, right? We built BookFunnel's direct sales integrations specifically to integrate with these other sales platforms because our feeling was I can't build Shopify. I mean, I could, but the amount of time that it would take me and the number of plugins that are supported on a platform as big as Shopify, I'd spend the rest of my life trying to duplicate all of that. And we would. Authors would be like, "Well, when are you going to get reviews? And when are you going to have upsells? And what about abandoned cart features?" And that would take me forever to build. Instead, someone else has already built that. The part that BookFunnel's really good at is delivering ebooks and audiobooks. So let me do the part that I'm good at. Let BookVault go and print and ship your print on demand books, and let Printify go and ship your coffee mugs. Let everybody do the part they're really good at. You look like a rock star because you have this great website that supports all of these amazing things, but you're not actually doing all that heavy lifting on the back end. You're letting everybody else do the parts they're good at.
As a matter of fact, in my store, I don't even know. It's
Yeah.
all automated.
Yeah.
Jordan handles, the print books, and she tells me what books to sign and who to, and I give them to her. She weighs them, mails them, and the stickers she mails. All the T-shirts and everything come from Print Aura, and it just and it's like you said, it's all integrated. Somebody can go to my store, buy a T-shirt, a coffee mug, a tote bag, an audiobook, ebook, a little oval sticker for the boat, whatever, and it all gets to them roughly about the same time. But and it makes me look good.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I feel like
So,
we're now on the subject of stores. Wayne, you sell a lot of your books direct, and you even give little incentives to your readers to purchase that way. And I know that you have some questions for Damon about direct sales for authors and how it's changed over the last year.
well, I'm wondering how other authors are doing compared to me. I know how many. Not in that sense, but I know how my sales have improved since I've been using BookFunnel now for what, 3 years, and audiobooks for a couple of years. So I know what my sales are, and I know how they've increased, and I know what months are good for me and what months are bad. I'm just curious if it's the same with others.
Sure.
If there's months that are good, months that are bad. Has direct sales really exploded like I thought it would in 2024? That's the big question.
So I will say, so this is interesting because BookFunnel is probably one of the only companies in the world that can actually pull data like that. We deliver ebooks and audiobooks, which is a huge part of direct selling for authors. We're not the only way that you can deliver books. There are people that are out there that are doing delivery of just emailing people EPUBs. I wouldn't recommend it, but you can do it. But we for sure are probably the largest player in the industry that does delivery of products like that. And so we are used by so many authors that are selling direct. So we can go peek into our data and we can probably get a picture of the direct selling indie author industry in a way that I don't know that anybody else, maybe BookVault or Lulu, could be able to pull numbers like that. And I will preface by saying that BookFunnel has so looking at our data, I went in and dug in and pulled out some of the data so that we could give you guys some ideas. But I want to preface this by saying, as a data person, I can tell you the what, but so often I can't tell you the why, because one of the things that we do at BookFunnel is we pride ourselves on giving our authors their privacy. So we don't ask for any data that we don't need, and we try really hard not to do that. So as an example, I don't know the genre of any of the books sold on BookFunnel, right? Unless you join sort of like a group promo and join a group promo with a cozy mystery and go, oh, that book must be a cozy mystery because that's what you joined. We don't have any of that data. So I can't pull data like, oh, sales of cozy mysteries are up and whatever, international spy thrillers are down. So I can look at the data and I can look at raw numbers, and we as authors and people in the industry can sort of extrapolate why we think those numbers are going in the direction that they're going. But so often I can't tell you the why because BookFunnel doesn't ask. We don't ask people when they sign up, why are you signing up for BookFunnel? People sign up generally because they've heard about us and they want to send out advanced reader copies, or they want to join group promos and build a mailing list, or they're setting up direct sales. I can tell you that, at the beginning of 2020, we built direct sales as a feature and launched it in 2017. I actually announced it at NINC in 2017, the first NINC that I ever went to. And I built it thinking that it was not going to be a very big feature. Not a lot of authors were going to use it because at that time, most authors were just, oh, we're just throw everything into Amazon and pray. And I will say that's still, a big strategy for a lot of people today. But, 2020 hit and the story started to change a little bit. I think, again, not knowing the why, but I think COVID kind of scared the crap out of everybody, and this realization for indie authors who we really like being in control of our destiny. Most authors that I know that are in the self-publishing world got there because they want to have control. I want to control my books, my covers, how my books are presented to readers and to the world. And so, COVID came along and kind of scared everybody into thinking like, oh, some really huge thing that's out of my control could just take away my income in a second. Now, that was always true, right? That was always true for the world. But indies really like being in control. And so numbers started to change very much. This feature that we'd had for years that not a lot of authors signed up and used was suddenly now getting a lot of attention. So, back in 2020, I didn't go back and pull the numbers back that far, but I could pretty safely say that back in 2020, the number of people who would sign up for BookFunnel and then go in and set up a store, right? Set up an integration with any one of the services that we integrate with. That number in 2020 was probably 1 in every 50, maybe even 1 in 100 signups, right? It was not a huge number of people. Some were doing it, and we've had authors that have been using the direct sales feature since it launched in 2017, and some that were doing very, very well with it. But it wasn't, as I sort of predicted, it wasn't a huge feature as compared to the other things that BookFunnel does for authors. Now, though, looking at the numbers and the signups for 2020, it's close to about 1 in 10 of every author that signs up for BookFunnel sets up a store of some kind. Now, setting up a store does not mean that you went out and had sales or that you actually did something with your store, right? Because we can kick tires, indie authors can kick tires all day long. We go around and we think, oh, everybody's doing direct sales. I'm going to go set up a store. And then, the bandwidth monster comes in and we suddenly realize that I can't actually write books and edit and publish and do all that and do this, right? And we all have that problem. So I did pull numbers and I wanted to go look and the number of authors. So compared to 2023, the number of authors that set up a store that then had at least 10 sales on that store. So accounting for the authors who just basically do one sale to themselves just to test the plumbing and then don't ever do anything again. So I pulled the numbers for stores that were set up in 2023 that had at least 10 sales versus the ones in 2024. And there was a 34% increase in the number of between 2023 and 2024. So I know, like, if I pull the numbers for the people that set up a store, that number is probably even way higher. So I'm trying to get to the number of people that actually set up a store and had some number of transactions throughout the year. Now that's all of 2024. So that could be somebody that set up a store in January. That also could be somebody who set one up in December and then had 10 sales in December before we reached the end of the year. Again, I don't know the whys. So just trying to see what those numbers look like. The number of transactions that BookFunnel handled from 23 to 24 went up 75%. So
Whoa,
you talk
really?
about so you talk about the numbers of sales. So that's across all of BookFunnel, right? Ebooks, audiobooks, everything. We don't have transaction data for Book Vault and anybody else. So I know that there are lots of authors out there whose, for example, all of their ebooks are all in Kindle Unlimited, but they are still setting up stores for print on demand sales. So they're still selling direct when they do print sales, special editions, new covers, hardcovers, signed editions, and things like that. We don't have any of that data because that's all going to be handled by other stores, and that doesn't come through us. But so those numbers, that growth is just looking at the number of transactions handled by BookFunnel that were ebooks and audiobook sales. And then the other big trend, I'm going to throw out some numbers and then we'll kind of dissect a little bit. So again, prognosticating like what we think the whys are. The other big number that I would say that I went and looked at is so BookFunnel has a feature called bulk delivery, which which authors use a lot for delivering crowdfunding. So Kickstarter and things like that. And I went back and looked at those numbers, specifically looking for trends in crowdfunding, Kickstarter, BackerKit, platforms like that, where authors are kickstarting new projects, either audiobooks, ebooks, whatever, right? And there was a 36% growth from 23 to 24 in the number of people who delivered a crowdfunding project in 2024. So, which is not surprising at all. I have a talk that I give on direct selling, and I talk about what I consider the four pillars of direct selling, because most people think of direct selling and they think about kind of what we've talked about, setting up a store and selling all your books and tote bags and coffee mugs and whatever, right? And that is a huge part of what people are doing with direct selling. But for me, selling direct is really four different things that you're doing. One is the authors that are out there and they're not selling they didn't set up a whole bookstore with all of their books. Instead, what they're doing is they're using their back catalog to sell bundles and deals that they don't put in other places. So, for example, you've got this great backlist series of 6 books. Well, I don't want to put those up on Amazon. Amazon will only lets me charge $9.99 before they start really punishing me with the royalty rate that I listed as. So I have the 6 books on Amazon, but I want to sell that box set of 6 books. I want to sell that directly from me at a discount so that I don't have to lose the royalty rate that I'm going to lose when I sell it over on Amazon. So that's one, like bundles and deals. We see a lot of authors that basically don't set up an entire store and just use their direct selling platform for selling bundles and deals. The second one is crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is selling direct. You're using a different platform. You're using Kickstarter or BackerKit to create a campaign, and you're going out and doing buzz and all that sort of stuff. But that is selling direct. Ultimately, readers are giving the money to you, and you're delivering the product to them. So, crowdfunding is selling direct, however you're out there doing it. So we've seen a big growth, like I said, 36% growth from 23 to 24 in people who were delivering crowdfunding projects. And that's using BookFunnel, right? So I have no insight into whether they delivered the projects that did print books and any of the other print stuff. That's just us delivering ebooks and audiobooks for crowdfunding. So the third one is what we call pre-selling. So for the authors that are either exclusive to Audible or exclusive to Kindle Unlimited, they go out and pre-sell their books, their ebooks and audiobooks on pre-order from their direct website. And that's, hey, if you want to buy it early, you can get it 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks before everybody else. Because when it goes live on Amazon, it's Kindle Unlimited all the way, and that's where my books are. But if you're one of my biggest fans and you want to read the book early, you can get it early directly from my store at this price. Usually, oftentimes the same price that I'm going to sell it on Amazon, but you can get it 4 weeks early. And that's a big draw, especially for your biggest fans. And the two things that you get out of that are the biggest thing that you get are, number one, you get all the royalties, right? So your biggest fans are willing to pay full price for the book, and you're going to get 95% of that profit back. So let's just say on average numbers, you're going to sell a $5 book, right? So most authors, at least from our numbers, most authors are putting their ebooks out there at $4.99, and they're putting their audiobooks out there from $9.99 up to $13 and $14.99. So let's say you put your ebook out early, you sell it direct from your website, and you sell it for $5. Well, your biggest fans, like if you allow them to do so, they'll absolutely go read it in Kindle Unlimited, and you'll get 82 cents or $1.18 or whatever Amazon decides to pay us this month for them reading that book. But they absolutely would have given you $5 for that book, and you would have collected $4.50 if they had bought it directly from you. So you're much better off taking that money from those fans that are willing to give it to you. The other thing that you get is, of course, the data. And this is the most important thing. And what I try to tell people with selling direct is you're going to find out two things very quickly. Number one is who is willing to buy directly from your store. And number two, who are the biggest fans? Because anybody who wants the book 4 weeks before everybody else, that they go on a separate mailing list of super fans, right? They're the ones who are buying directly from you because they want that book 4 weeks early. They don't want to wait 4 more weeks to get that next book. And knowing that data, knowing who your super fans are is really, really important because those are the people that are not only going to buy everything that you publish till the end of your days, those are the people that are going to go out and evangelize you to everybody else. They're the people that are sitting in a bar and you're talking about books or you're talking about stories and go, "Oh, you like thrillers. I love this author. You should check out her books or you should check out his books." Those people go out and sell your books for you. So knowing those people and then knowing to take care of those people. When the new book comes out, they get the announcement first. When the audiobook is ready, when you have a cool sticker that you've done, you know what? I'm just going to drop it in the mail to everybody that's on my super fan mailing list because I just wanted to tell you guys you're awesome. And all that's going to do is make them go out and evangelize you even more.
Yeah, that's what I for the last 2 years I've been doing ebooks direct sales through BookFunnel, and then we added audiobooks 2 years ago, and then last year I started tightening up the schedule so that I could release early to my loyal fans.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I put a book on pre-order. Like currently, I have a book on pre-order on Amazon. It's got 1,000 or more pre-orders, but I've got over 100 pre-orders on my website.
Yeah.
And those are my super fans. Those people are going to get it a week early. They're going to get it for $2 less than retail, which is still more than I'll make in royalties.
Right, exactly.
So it's a win-win for everybody.
Well, and they love that, right? The super fans, the fans that truly love you as an author, they like rewarding them by letting them have the opportunity to read it a few weeks or a week before everybody else. That's what we all want, right? I am a super fan of many authors, and I can tell you that the minute they have a new book out, I want to know it. I want it immediately. And if you offer me the opportunity, I back a lot of Kickstarters. I back a lot of my favorite authors on Kickstarter because I get those books months before, in some cases, months before everybody else. And as a super fan, that is what I want. Not for some, reason like, I want to stick it to the other fans, but just like I want to read those books. I want those stories. I don't want to wait for those.
Yeah, well, Nick, if you were to start selling direct and you put your book up a week early, guaranteed I'm not buying it from Amazon.
Well, this we've been talking about, you do what you want to do and what you're best at, and I probably need to hire someone to put together that store because I had a lot of fun designing all sorts of wonderful swag and
Oh
think
yeah.
all the little nifty things I could put into book versions, but I haven't had time to do the integration and put it on my old website and update the website. But I would love to do all these things. I'm writing everything down here, but then I'm thinking, I don't know when I'm going to do it.
Well, we all have the bandwidth problem, and I see this a lot. I got back. I went to Author Nation. I went to several conferences last year, but the Author Nation conference in Vegas was the one I just got back from. And I can't tell you how many authors that I meet that all have the same issue. I have a million things I want to do, and I can get done exactly three. And that's the bandwidth problem that we all have. So you do have to decide when you're going to make time for that. And I see this a lot. The authors that I see that are signing up, the ones that because we know who the authors on BookFunnel are that are getting lots of direct sales because we see their customers more than anybody else, right? And when we look at those numbers, it's usually authors that have a pretty decent backlist, like a long enough backlist that you can play with things. You can start doing things like when you release your new edition, you know who your fans are, and you know that I release a new book, I'm gonna get at least this much sales, right? You've been doing this long enough that you know where your sales are kind of gonna go. But what you can start to do is like, oh, I have this old 5 book series that still sells, bumps along steadily, but it doesn't get as much traction as it used to. It doesn't get as many sales as it used to. I'm going to box that up and let's just see. I'm going to do a special and offer it to my mailing list, and let's just see if we can maybe get some movement on that. What authors sometimes forget is that readers today are discovering you for the first time, and they haven't read all those books that you wrote before. And in fact, for them, those are brand new books. And they're excited because the minute you, I do this all the time. I love finding a new author, falling in love with that author, only to realize, holy crap, they've got like 25 books in their backlist. Score! Because that means I've got great reading material for the next month.
The
And
next couple, yeah.
I don't have to go dig around and find yet another, book to read. I've got 25 books of backlist that I can tear through. And I've done that my whole life. And I know there are readers out there doing it because I can see them doing it. And they come up and they talk to us. We went to the reader event at Author Nation too, which was really enlightening for us because now readers are coming up and saying, "Oh, I love BookFunnel. I see you guys. I use you all the time for this, that, and the other." And getting to see them and what they're doing, they all do the same thing. They're looking, most true readers, right? I can't remember the statistics, but if you go look at the statistics, it's like the average person might read one book a year. But the readers that we're talking about, the ones that are like genuinely love to read and they read books all the time, I finish a book and I'm done reading, or I finish a series, I'm not looking for the next book to read. I'm looking for the next author that I'm going to fall in love with so that I can go read all of their stuff. And I might go through a few authors and go, that was a good book. I don't really feel the need to read the rest of their series, or it was okay, but I'm not really interested in following it. But when I find the one that I love, no, I'm going to go tear through the whole I'm going to finish the series that I'm reading, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to see what else you wrote, and I'm going to read all of those too.
That's what we all hope for, and working towards that every time I put a new book on BookFunnel. And oh, here's a question. This is right up your alley, actually. I use a scribe count
Mhm.
for reporting, and scribe count tells me how many books I sold through BookFunnel, and it doesn't show it on the graph.
That you'd have to ask Scribe Count. I know that Scribe Count pulls the data from us. We have a feed that we send them to pull the data back. But if it doesn't show on the graph, then that's something that you'd have to ask them about, like why it's if it's not showing up. Drop me an email and tag Randall from Scribe Count, and maybe we can figure that out.
Yeah, I'll definitely do that. Anybody listening, hearing my dog barking in the background, I'll mute my mic whenever she starts. But we're on vacation. We're in sunny Florida right now, visiting my daughter and grandchildren and great grandson. And I had a conversation with my great grandson yesterday. How many people ever in their lives get to say that they had a conversation with a great grandchild?
That's pretty
But
awesome.
we're down here in Florida just enjoying the warmth and get away from the house for a little while and visit the family and everything. But the dog is very noisy. I apologize for that.
Do we have any questions from YouTube? We're past 7 o'clock, so I want to make sure we don't miss any.
I don't even know if my YouTube is working right. I've
Oh,
posted
shoot.
several times asking for questions and nobody said anything. If you're watching this on YouTube and you got the chat open, you can ask a question. We should say that before we even start, because a lot of people don't even know there's a chat box there.
Yeah, we've only been doing this a few years. I suppose we could get around to that. I got to ask, I'm assuming that it's there in view, perhaps so it could be asked about. What is Sissy K Pickle Bottom?
Oh, yeah. So that sits back there. That's so that Sissy K Picklebottom is the pen name that my wife made up for all of our demo videos. So so BookFunnel has a massive knowledge base full of for authors for that people using BookFunnel, and anytime we would do that, we would make videos or we use screenshots. And my wife Julie, who runs the company with me, was usually tasked with making all of those videos and doing those screenshots. And at first, we'd reach out to authors and ask if we could use their books in our demos. And then over time, it got to be we're like, well, I don't want to keep having to ask permission for everybody. So she just made up an author. And that was the name that she made up, Sissy K Picklebottom. And I was like, well, I guess that's never going to be a real author's name that that we have to offend if we did something. And she just gets so tickled every time she has to use that name. So yeah, all the demos, if you go look, Sissy K Pickle or SK Picklebottom is the pen name that she writes under. And it is these are not real books. This is all like she writes so one of the books is The Fast and the Furious, taken by the cheetah, The Fast and the Furious. And she's a
Realize that
paranormal.
probably would sell.
I know. That's what I told her. I was like, that book may actually exist out there. Did you check the title to make sure that we didn't steal that from somebody? But yes, I told that I was at Nink a few years back, and I told that story because when the books came up, everybody kind of got a chuckle when because I'm showing screenshots of some of the demo books, and a friend of mine asked what the where did that come from, and I told that story, and so then I get home, and then sometime around Christmas I get a package in the mail, and she had mailed me a pillow with the Sissy K Picklebottom printed on it, and so now I have it on that little. That's actually where my wife sits when she's critiquing all of the new features that I'm working on in BookFunnel and telling me how I got it wrong. Which is great. It's what she's great at. I tell you straight up, I'm an engineer. I have an engineer's brain, and so I build it the way that I think is perfectly logical. And Julie goes, "No one's going to understand that. You're going to have to. It needs to work like this." And so, if you've ever used BookFunnel and thought, "Wow, this is so easy to use," all credit to my wife because she's the one who goes, "Yeah, mere mortals are not going to understand what went on in your little brain when you made that feature." So I would do it like this, and like, you're right. That's way better.
I'm imagining that you feel seen when you watch HBO's Silicon Valley.
Absolutely. Yeah, not always in a good way, but it was like,
Oh no.
oh,
Like, oh,
I feel
do
both
I
seen
really
and
do that?
called out.
Well, in your digging through the data, did you find out anything month specific or seasonal specific? Are certain months lower and certain months better for direct
Yeah.
sales?
Yeah, so I pulled all the numbers for 2024 and I compared them to 2023 just to kind of see. 2023 was people were still sort of getting ramped up on direct sales. So I feel like 2024 is probably the best data that we have because I look and I don't see like strong deviations from like month to month. But you absolutely can see. So for example, looking at the numbers from 24, the jump from April to May. So May looks like the strongest month and again, some of this can be, it's the numbers we try to average things out because you can look at things like, well, somebody may have been doing a lot of promotion that month. Or some huge author may have released a giant book or something like that. So I tried to account for some of that when I pulled the data. But from what I'm looking at, there was almost a 100% increase in direct sales transactions from April to May. So May went up like a rocket. Then it almost immediately fell back to the same numbers from April in June. So June dropped like a stone, which is, I mean, anybody who's been indie publishing for a while knows like kids get out of school, like there's a big drop in
Yeah.
June. It bounces back up a little bit in July and August and even into September. So it's a little bit higher. June looks like probably one of the lowest months that I can see in the data. So July, August, September bump up a little bit, but are still lower. Then it starts to get a little higher in October. And I would say outside of May, it really bounces back in November. And I think that's probably authors. So authors tend to do a lot more advertising of direct sales. So, in direct selling, other than your super fans, you're not going to make any sales except for advertising, right? Because there's nobody out there just accidentally stumbling across your
Yeah.
website and your books, right? You're going to have to be driving those eyeballs. But of course, the closer we get to once we hit Black Friday, the other companies around the world buy up all the advertising, right? They budget most of their ad spend toward the tail end of the year so that they're really pushing that out there. So I think that again, this is me speculating on the why. A lot of authors will begin pushing some of their ads in November that are basically going to be their biggest ad spend before things hit the Christmas season, and then they don't want to spend that money because now instead of, 18 cents for a Facebook ad, you're dropping 84 cents because you're competing with Coca-Cola and Nike and everybody else for ad dollars. So I see more authors probably pushing their money. You can start to see the trend lines go up in October. So I think towards the tail end of October, authors start spending a little bit more of their ad money for direct sales, and then November sees the biggest bump outside of May for sure. And then it drops down a little bit in December, but I would say December was still pretty strong as far as direct sales go. So I don't know if that's more authors doing discounts or deals to their list, because when the ad dollars are being overspent, right? If everybody's out there spending all their money on Facebook ads, but you've built up a pretty decent mailing list, December is when you want to start hitting your mailing list, because you don't have to pay the dollars that everybody else is chasing over on Facebook. Instead, you're sending directly to your list of fans that are already there, and you don't have to spend all of that extra money, which is why you really should be building your mailing list throughout the year so that you can really kind of tap into that in the November, December months when the ad spend dollars go way, way up.
Now, I think it direct sales, it sounds like, pretty much correlates right along with retail sales. The rises and falls, and same thing in May. I always see a really good May, and summertime is always bad. It's just,
Yeah.
everybody's doing other things. They're out boating, fishing, scuba
Yep.
diving, or just enjoying life. A lot of ease. That's what I say. But it seems to correlate right along with retail sales.
I was a little surprised that November was as high as it was, because my expectation would, again, because of the cost of ad spend in November leading up to the Black Friday deals and all the hype and all of that sort of stuff. Although I will say, just anecdotally looking around at my life, the Black Friday thing has died off a little bit. It's not nearly as sort of crazy. You don't see people getting stabbed over a TV in Walmart anymore. So like that, a little bit of that craziness, that wackiness. And thankfully it seems like some of the retailers have leaned into that a little bit more. Like, yeah, listen, guys, like our people want to go home and have Thanksgiving too. So we're not doing that. You can show up. We'll open 6 a.m. on Black Friday. That's as early as we're doing it. But I was really surprised to see the numbers kind of bounce back. So after the summer, after September, which of course I'm in Houston, so September is still summer for us. And of course the kids are going back to school, and I think a lot of parents are still getting back into that. And then, it seems like right around October, they suddenly go, oh, that's right, I can read books again. And so, the kids are now like fully into school, and I can maybe go enjoy myself a little bit. So you can see the line going straight up as you hit October, November, December.
Well, that pretty much falls right in line with what I was thinking. Well, we are 15 minutes into overtime.
Oh,
We're going to
good.
have to wrap this up. Greta's in the other room. She's getting ready to order some DoorDash, and we're going to have a feast. My daughter just arrived, and my other granddaughter, I think, is on her way. So we're about to have a little feast here in Cocoa Beach, Florida.
Awesome.
Thank you for coming on with us, Damon, and thanks for digging in all that data and research. It means a whole lot to indie authors. I know there's a lot of people watching, and a lot of people going to be watching once we post the recording tomorrow. But thanks for being on with us. It's always good to talk to you.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me.
And Nick, thank you for being on here and doing everything you do. And I'll be sending you an audiobook here shortly.
Marvelous. And I'll be recording it.
All right. Well, that's it for tonight. And thank you. Thanks all you viewers for watching. And we'll be back in February on the first Monday of February. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Happy New Year.
It's still recording.